Okay, fellow waiver wirers, let's get ready to pick up some players. Are we picking up Jauan Jennings? Is he going to be the prize this week? Coming off that amazing game. We welcome you to Fantasy Football today, presented by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Speaking of amazing, Dave, I have an amazing knock your socks off stat to start the show.
We'll see if my socks get knocked off.
Now, yesterday I led with a stat. Malik Neighbors has thrown more passes inside the 10-yard line than Dak Prescott. I thought that was good. This is crazy. Bucky Irving has 2 carries of more than 30 yards on 25 career carries. Rachaad White has 2 carries of more than 30 yards on 432 carries. Things could be changing there. As they said, they're going to get Bucky Irving more touches. So anyway, how you doing, Dave? How was week 3 for you? Any undefeated teams?
I still have a few undefeated teams, so pretty lucky to have one of them. 14-team expert league. I had the second lowest score of the week, and I played against the team that had the lowest score, and I barely won.
Defense wins championships, Dave.
Well, they're funny. We start 0 DSTs in this league, but yeah, surviving, scraping by. The biggest feather in my cap that I can say is I didn't have any 0-2 teams, so I obviously don't have any 0-3 teams.
Nice.
But my focus this week is going to be thinking about those 0-3 teams and finding the guys that can turn them around. And you know this from last year, Adam. There were so many times and so many leagues where it's just a jumbled mess in the standings, excuse me. That I can't help but think that even if you're 0-3, it's not like the NFL. When you're 0-3 in the NFL, you're out of it. When you're 0-3 in fantasy, you're a couple wins away from basically being a contender for a playoff spot.
Don't let the Bengals hear what you just said, by the way, about being 0-3. But yes, and it all starts with the waiver wire. So, we never talk about the FFT Open. We get all these people to pay money and raise money. We raised $33K for St. Jude through the FFT Open. Well, I think now is just the time to say, watch out, FFT Open people, because I am 3-0. I am loaded, and I'm coming for you. First place right now in the Azer division, and you better watch out because I plan on winning this entire thing.
Oh, boy, did you just put the kibosh?
I can't. My team is unjinxable. It is that good. Jamie is here now. Welcoming him back from a long weekend where he was traveling. And Jamie, I'm going to throw you right into the fire. Who are your top 3 priorities this week?
Top 3 priorities are all receivers. Jauan Jennings 1, Rome Odunze 2, and Darnell Mooney 3.
Okay, Jennings, Odunze, Mooney, and So Odunze, is he a long-term play or a week 4 play or both?
More long-term than week 4 in terms of the comparison to Jennings. The concern would be is what happens when Keenan Allen comes back. So you got to obviously factor that in. Is he going to continue to be this guy for the Bears? I hope so, because he's their future, and Keenan Allen is certainly not a big part of that. But for the present day, you got to assume that Keenan Allen, who the last time we saw him was leading this team in targets, is going to be a big factor. So he is a very good short-term play. Certainly a starter in 3 receiver leagues, more of a flex in 2 receiver leagues. I would definitely start Jennings over him, for example, if you're comparing the 2. Short-term, though, Jennings is by far the best at.
Jennings gets New England, and I think they should just put Christian Gonzalez on Jennings and let that other scrub receiver. No, I'm just kidding, Dave. No, they should put him on.
I'm serious, and then double team Ayuk.
Oh, well, they could do that, I guess.
That's what I would do if I were them.
They got to stop the run.
It could do. Okay, so anyway,
I'm not going to stop the 49ers.
I think with Odunze, with Cole Kmet, who's going to be probably a popular ad given the state of the.
I'm 3-0 in the FFT Open too, by the way.
Yeah, but you're not as good as my team.
We'll see.
Let's just be real. I wonder if we have any of the same players. Anyway, with the Bears, their schedule is lightening up considerably. It started last week with the Colts, where they got a lot of garbage time production, but you got the Rams. Their defense is awful right now. The Panthers, the Jaguars, a bye at Washington, at Arizona. That's their next 5 games. So hoping better times are ahead for the Bears. All right, so it's Jauan Jennings, Rome Odunze, Darnell Mooney. Dave, how about you? Who are your top 3?
It's the same 3 names, but it depends on how badly you need a receiver now. And Jennings is the answer there. If you need a receiver now, he makes sense. But eventually, Debo will be back, Kittle will be back, and Jauan Jennings won't have a humongous target share. And he's not going to play the Rams every week either. Well, you've got to think a little long term. If you're just desperate for a win, you're one of those 0-3 teams. Jennings should be number one on your list. Odunze would be after him. Mooney would be after him. I think you could make the case that Mooney is the best long-term option, but I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say Odunze is the better long-term option. So let's say you don't need a wide receiver badly for week number 4. What week is it, Jamie? It's week number 4. I think it would be the one that you would target because I think he's got some staying power. And I think Mooney does too, compared to Juwan Jennings, who could go back to being 2-3 targets a game once the Niners get healthy.
And then there's just, first of all, this is always a tough show because there's a lot of players who might be available in your league that we don't talk about at the outset of the show. So
it's crazy what you're about to say.
Crazy. I mean, the players who were dropped in the first 3 weeks, Deontay Johnson, Jake Ferguson, and Dallas Goedert.
The running backs are by our site, by comparison to other sites, it's nuts.
So like who at running back? Chuba?
Oh, Braylon Allen, Bucky Irving. Those are the two that stand out the most. I think they're like under 50% rostered on some sites that I saw.
Yes.
You mentioned Deontay Johnson. Trying to just get to the list here.
Deontay's insane. That it's unbelievable that we were talking about this last week. People were dropping Deontay Johnson. So you got to make him a priority.
Rico Dowdle, who looks like he could be taking over the Cowboys backfield. Jonathan Brooks. We talked about this last week. Carson Steele, still not rostered across the board in a lot of leagues. The receivers, you mentioned Deontay Johnson. We also have Quentin Johnson still available in some leagues. Christian Watson's out there. Getting dropped. The tight ends, Dallas Goedert's available in a lot of leagues. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think Deontay Johnson would have to be the prize, right?
Yes.
Two Panthers, really. Him or Chuba Hubbard, at least for one more week. Johnson, obviously, long term. So that's easy. Yes, I would say he's number one. Short term, though, Chuba Hubbard, I like him a lot for this week.
Ooh. I thought you'd go with Pollard as the guy that you liked a lot.
I can't keep picking on the Dolphins. So
yeah, you can, and yeah, you should.
I thought about something that Dave was really impressed. I talked a little smack about Jamie when he wasn't here, so I just have to be honest about that. Dave was impressed with Jamie calling it like Charbonnet show or something like that. You said, I don't remember what it was, but
that's
Dave
exactly what it was.
That was so clever. And I was like, I say things 5 times more clever than that. I think 5 things more clever than that every show. So I was dumping on you a little bit, Jamie, but I do think that, there was a funny, I can't say it, but Charbonnet plus start of the week. If you combine Charbonnet and start and what you would have gotten there of the week, that would have been a very funny thing that we could have said last week. That would have been really clever. But anyway,
it would just be
hit your laugh track, buddy.
Chart of the week, like trade chart of the week.
Chart of the week, exactly.
That's what it was, right?
So again, it's Juwan Jennings, Rome Odunze, and Darnell Mooney, but so many more names to know this week. So many more names. We'll get to those. We've got a lot of content for you on CBS Sports Network this week. Actually, we only have 2/3 of our usual content because we don't have a show on Wednesday. But today, Tuesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, head on over to CBS Sports Network for more fantasy advice. Real fun stuff that we do there. We keep it light, and we give you some additional information that you won't hear on the podcast. How much FAB are we spending on, I guess, the long-term plays? But if Deontay Johnson were available in your league, what percentage of your budget?
50
A large percentage.
If Rome Odunze were available?
Not a large percentage.
15, 20 tops.
Really?
I think that's the good news of the week is that the players that'll be widely available, they like Juwan Jennings might fetch a 40% bid from somebody in your league, but you should not spend that much. I don't know if there's anybody who's available on our threshold, okay, 35% or more, that is going to be worth even a 15% FAB bid.
Yeah. Now, when you say 35% or more, you mean available in 35% or more of leagues. So we're looking at 65% rostered or less. And actually, there was a guy, Jamie, that I wanted to ask you about, Cam Akers, because he's right at 65%. And Cam Akers, rough day running the football. The whole team stunk. They scored 7 points at Minnesota. Right. They get Jacksonville this week. What do you think about Akers if he were available?
He'd be near the top, when you're comparing it to the guys who are available. So when you're talking about 1 week situations, he's better than Roschon Johnson and Emmanuel Wilson. I mean, most of the running backs really this week are not great for where we are. Again, a lot of other sites are saying go pick up Bucky Irving and Braylon Allen, and if those guys are available, they should be easy ads. Chuba Hubbard, same thing. So any of those guys that are going to be in that range, it's almost like for people that play on Yahoo and ESPN and anywhere else, you're seeing those guys available, which is awesome. But for our purposes and the users on our site, I think if Cam Akers is still out there, again, 65% is pretty high. So if he's still out there, he should be the most added running back. But there's still the uncertainty of A, Joe Mixon, and B, Dameon Pierce. If Pierce comes back, do they give him the job? Because like you said, everybody stunk for the Texans. Do they say, okay, wipe that game off the board, we're going back to what we had planned prior to week 3? Or it's, okay, here's how we have to reevaluate things. We couldn't run the ball at all. Let's give Pierce the chance over Akers, and then it's Pierce is the one that we're looking at.
The Jaguars have been pretty good against the run. They give up a lot of receiving production to running backs, but they just lost Foye Oluokun, who, if you play in IDP leagues, you know him. So I don't know what the severity is. It was obviously the game was last night, but he left with, I want to say, a foot injury, and he played only 42% of the snaps last night. Their run defense still held up, but that would be a key loss for them. I would say if Darnell Mooney were available in my league, and he's 55% rostered or something,
52?
I think that's a 52%, yeah. 12, 13% of original budget kind of bid for me.
Sure.
So I think, as Dave was saying this, the other two guys in front of him, in terms of the top 3 for me, have issues because there's guys missing, right? So 49ers get healthy. Jennings doesn't have the same appeal. Bears get healthy. Odunze doesn't have the same appeal. If you go back to last week, and we can debate who was better, Mooney was my number 1 receiver over Quentin Johnson. Dad. So he comes through 8 targets, 8 catches, 66 yards. Like, he's going to be a factor for the Falcons the rest of season. So from okay, who's going to maybe produce at the same level as these two guys, but has the maybe better long-term appeal, then you go out and get Mooney if he's still available over Jennings, over Odunze. But I think Dave, sort of said exactly what I was trying to tell you is if I'm trying to win this week, I'm picking up Juwan Jennings and I'm not thinking twice. It doesn't sound like Debo's coming back. Doesn't sound like Kittle's coming back. We know Christian McCaffrey's not coming back. Purdy is in love with Juwan Jennings. And why wouldn't he be? I mean, he looked like Jerry Rice out there. He's mossing receivers, 3 touchdowns. he's just running free.
Like Jerry Rice out there
in one game. Absolutely.
It was just, it was a fun joke. I like that. Yeah. No Jerry Rice, but no. Okay. Your point is taken. All right. Anything else you want to say about fab bids, or shall we move on?
How high would you go for Jennings if you were desperate? That might be the exception to the 15% that I said earlier.
If we're saying desperate, so 1 and 2,
0 and 3, and I need
then you're spending probably 25%.
Yeah. I don't like it, but yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's not going to help you in week 8 when you're not competing.
That's true.
As Dave, the thing that sticks out of my mind though is Dave mentioned he ran like the same amount of routes 2 weeks ago and did nothing. So
I mean, we see this every year,
right?
Where a guy gets pressed into action and he has a monster game, and we chase it, and he goes back to being what he is. This guy, I like Juwan Jennings all the way back in 2020 when I saw him at the Senior Bowl, but he's been in the league since then. An awesome game. He looked great. The opportunities are still going to be there as long as Kittle's out and Debo's out. We already talked about this. I don't need to say it.
Yeah. Okay.
But week 8, it's not going to matter what you spend on Juwan Jennings. You need the win now, but Juwan Jennings might be back on your waiver wire by then.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, we got your news and there's a lot of news. We'll catch up on it. Give you the top 3 priorities at each position: shallow leagues, deep leagues, schedule alert. Who's got great schedules coming up? Who's got a tough schedule coming up? Based on what we know now, which is pretty limited through 3 weeks, but we'll tell you when we come back on FFT.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
I also forgot to mention, we're going to talk about last night's games. And, Jaden Daniels. That's what I'm talking about, man. You can throw the ball downfield. Thank you for doing it. And just some dimes to Terry McLaurin. Good stuff. All right, I'm going to need the Micro Machines guy to get through the news and notes. We'll do our best. Sam Darnold has a bruised knee. I hope he's okay. Brock Purdy is fine, it seems. He got a little dinged up, but he's sore. The Raiders are sticking with Gardner Minshew. Jordan Love is going to be limited in practice. Justin Herbert re-aggravated his ankle injury. They have Kansas City this week and then a bye. I don't know if he's going to play. Taylor Heineke replaced Justin Herbert for the Chargers. Skylar Thompson left in the third quarter. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to play for a little while. He's in a lot of pain, so it could be Tyler Huntley or Tim Boyle. Running back news. Christian McCaffrey is going to see a specialist in Germany as he deals with Achilles tendonitis. What do you guys think about that? Christian McCaffrey going to Germany.
Guy hurts his Achilles and he gets a vacation out of it. I don't like it. It makes me a little nervous.
Not selling high on Jordan Mason, right? Let's just keep him. All right. Both Steelers running backs are beat up right now. Jaylen Warren had an MRI on his knee. Najee Harris looked like he hurt his arm on his last carry of the game. His arm's in a sling. So should Cordero Patterson, Jamie, should he be a waiver wire priority against the Colts?
Yes. So I put him behind Roshan Johnson, Emmanuel Wilson, and the Chiefs guys, if you're looking at the list I sent you. So I don't want to trust Patterson, but he could be thrust into a very good opportunity, clearly, against the Colts. So just keep an eye on the injury report. I would guess at this point, just based on what Mike Tomlin said, that Harris will be okay, and Jaylen Warren is the one we got to worry about.
Tomlin usually talks to the media on Tuesdays too, so hopefully we'll have a better idea by the time we put our waivers to bed tonight.
They're going to ask him about the quarterback, and he's going to say, "I'm not deal with speculation." But yeah, let's see what.
Just name him the starter the rest of the season.
Yeah, Austin Eckler left with a head injury. He left with a concussion. What else we got here? Bucky Irving is going to earn more time. Clyde Edwards-Helaire could be back next week. And let's go to the wide receiver news. DJ Moore was dinged up late. Hope he's okay. I think he's okay. Same with Amari Cooper. Cooper Kupp has already been ruled out for this week. Tank Dell is sore, but he should be fine. Devontae Smith, is he officially in the concussion protocol? I didn't see on Smith.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll check on Smith. He's at Tampa Bay this week. Jordan Addison's got a good chance to play this week. Justin Jefferson's got this finger injury. Just a quick question about that. You know, if you were making trade offers, would you be hesitant to acquire Justin Jefferson because of this finger injury, which I guess hampered him late in the game?
No.
Okay. Adam Thielen could miss some time with a hamstring injury. Van Jefferson has an eye injury. Darius Slayton's fine. And tight end news. Sam Laporta, day-to-day with a low ankle sprain. That's great. Trey McBride left. He's with a concussion. He's in the concussion protocol. Brock Bowers appears to be fine. Tucker Kraft left in the third quarter. And then the offensive linemen, I don't even know where to begin with this.
Why don't you just tell us the offensive linemen who are healthy around the NFL?
The teams that are dealing with offensive line injuries, the Jets, the Lions, their center, Frank Ragnow's week to week. Steelers right tackle, Troy Fautanu, he's out for the season. Seattle, the Chargers. Tough. I think they're just going to get, well, I shouldn't say that.
They're about to have a preseason game.
they could get crushed by the Chiefs. It does make you wonder how much you can trust Dobbins this week. But Lane Johnson, I think he's fine, as I recall. What was his injury? I think he's fine. Lane Johnson for the Eagles.
Concussion.
Was it a concussion?
Thought so.
Okay, then maybe he's not fine. I'm sorry. So Lane Johnson, concussion protocol. Eric McCoy for the Saints. That's a bad one. Trent Brown for the Bengals. He left last night in the second quarter. Teron Armstead's banged up for the Dolphins. So you got those two Falcons injuries that we talked about yesterday. They happened on Sunday night. Dahlman has a high ankle sprain. Their center, he's going to miss some time. Caleb McGarry, I think he's day-to-day for now. And then Cleveland, real beat up on the offensive line.
Yes.
Defensively, Myles Garrett. I'm thinking he's just going to keep playing through these injuries, but got to be a little nervous there. He's playing through some foot issues. The Chargers, Joey Bosa's hurt, and Derwin James, their safety, he suspended one game, but he's going to appeal. They're going to get crushed. Chiefs going to crush him. I mentioned Foye Oluokun for the Jaguars. Javon Hargrave for the Niners, defensive tackle, partially torn bicep. He might be out for the year. Two defensive backs injured for the Titans. Amani Hooker, their safety, but the big one is Awuzie, cornerback Chidobe Awuzie. He's likely going to miss several weeks. The Giants have three defensive backs. They're all
that's not Tim Boyle.
Yeah, they're all slot cornerbacks though for the Giants. They're injured and they got a short week. And Marcus Epps, Raider safety, he's out for the season. Business decision. Darius Slay left in the fourth quarter.
Or his ACL, not a business decision.
No, I know. I was kind of making fun of Antonio Pierce.
Right, I got you.
I wouldn't. I don't know. That's that.
Jokes.
But what is it? What you can't.
I say 5 things more clever than that.
It's clever. Alex Highsmith for the Steelers. He's beat up.
I'm gonna make fun of somebody who just got killed.
I wasn't making fun of him. Brian Brandt. Okay, and the Lions are pretty beat up on defense too. Okay, well, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM, on a more positive note, you can still sign up for BetMGM and get a big time offer with the code FANTASY. Use the code FANTASY when you sign up. Get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works: download the BetMGM app. It's easy. I've done it. Sign up using the bonus code FANTASY. It's easy. I've done it. Deposit at least $10. I've done it. And place your first wager on any game. And you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FANTASY when you sign up. Time for the top 3 at each position. Jamie, who are our top 3 quarterbacks this week?
Sam Darnold, the MVP candidate. Say that 10 times fast. Andy Dalton, the resurrection of the Panthers.
What is happening? Sam Darnold, Andy Dalton. This is the top 3 waiver wire. Who else?
And
Zach Wilson and Justin Fields. All right. Yeah. Darnold, Dalton.
See what happens when you get good coaching, right? Or an opportunity.
I've thought about that so much, just from a dynasty perspective, about these quarterbacks being resurrected. And you haven't even mentioned previous waiver wire guys, Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield. You know, it's pretty cool. It's really good to see things turn around for these players. I hope it's not short-lived.
You know how it's going to go.
We don't know how it's going to go.
It's going to be short.
I mean, it's been pretty good for Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield.
Exactly. You know,
Sam Darnold gets Justin Jefferson and a coach. I mean, he looks great.
And Jordan Addison back this week. Hawkinson coming back hopefully soonish.
Yeah, Darnold's the one I could see with staying power.
When you look at Darnold, Dalton, Fields, and then you look at 2 guys in Carr and Mayfield that had bad weeks, do you make the switch or do you stick with Carr and Mayfield?
Mayfield this week for sure. I mean, I still think Philly's defense is a work in progress, and I would take my chances with him in that matchup. Carr's a little bit different, but I still would probably go with him over. No, I'm sorry. I would go with Darnold and Dalton just because they both have good matchups this week. You know, I think Darnold's going to be in a shootout, especially if Jordan Love plays. And how could you get away from? I know he was at home, but what he just did to, 2 very good defenses in back-to-back weeks against the 49ers and Houston. I just think Kevin O'Connell right now front runner for Coach of the Year. And then Dalton's taking it might be the best matchup of the year. Like the Bengals are so bad.
They are so bad. They don't see a lot of pass attempts because their run defense is so bad. But the Bengals, like 7 fantasy points to Jacoby Brissett, 16 points to Patrick Mahomes in the first 2 weeks, and then 32 points to Jaden Daniels last night. But this defense does not look much better than they were last year when they gave up the most yards per play in the NFL. So that's Dalton's matchup. Darnold has Green Bay, and Fields has the Colts. And the Colts have faced Malik Willis and Caleb Williams, so a couple of mobile quarterbacks. Now they get another one.
It's just like, which Fields are we getting, right? We're getting the same guy for the last 3 weeks. It's hard to say he's a must-start guy.
Yeah, conservative Justin Fields. Running backs, Dave.
Winning Justin Fields.
Who are the top 3 running backs?
I like Jaleel McLaughlin. As a long-term guy, as a running back that could earn more work in Denver's run game. We saw him splitting goal-to-go carries with Javonte Williams against Tampa Bay, and he's the one who scored. Javonte is not. He's available in 48% of CBS leagues, so I think that he's got it. I think he's worth stashing. I think he could end up being the better running back in Denver moving forward. Akers is behind him, and that could be short-lived. We already talked about what happens if Joe Mixon or Dameon Pierce comes back. And then I guess it's Pirine over Kareem Hunt, but I got a feeling that Kareem Hunt's going to end up being active within the next game or 2 for Kansas City, and he'll end up taking some work away from both Steele and Pirine. So depends on what you're looking for. Certainly depends if it's a PPR league. I think I would put Hunt over Pirine. So give me McLaughlin, Akers, Hunt.
I'm sorry. I really think it should be Clyde if we're going with a non-Carson Steele Chiefs running back.
It's not a bad call, but it's another player who's let us down for a long time. And
Yeah.
are we 100% sure he's going to be back? I
I
mean, we've been talking about stashing him on IR for weeks now. So
Well, on the
a couple
broadcast,
of people have done that. If they're going to do it, they've already done that.
they seem to indicate that he was likely to come back in week 5 on Sunday Night Football. But honestly, as a guy who picked up a lot of Clyde last week, I mean, I don't really see why they would get away from Carson Steele. I mean, he did a really good job, and
Did a good job. He's going to do a great job this week.
yeah. So I'm obviously less enthused about Clyde. I picked up Carson Steele too, so I wasn't rooting against Carson Steele. But for Clyde shares or for Hunt or whoever, I don't really see a reason to get away from Carson Steele after what he did. And running back is look, you may not need anyone now, so you take a shot on Braylon Allen on the high upside stashes. It's really depends. We say it a lot. Depends on what you need. But Rico Dowdle, Jamie, you did mention Rico Dowdle might be, I don't know what the word you use, but sort of claiming that backfield.
Yeah, I mean, look, Ezekiel Elliott's touches have declined in 3 straight games, and Dowdle, looked more explosive, understandably so, against the Ravens. If you just look at how he performed and got more opportunities, I don't think Zeke is completely getting phased out, but this is one of those situations where if you can get ahead of it before he may have a blow-up game against the Giants, like if they decide to feature him, like this is the type of player that could eventually be at least a number 2 running back or flex for you if he gets that full-time role. Dallas is struggling to run the ball right now. The offensive line is not the same, but still the guy in that backfield can be at least, like I said, a flex or maybe a number 2 running back. So I would like to roster him as well. So the way that I have it with the guys that are rostered in more than 65% of leagues, again, looking at our site, I have Hubbard number 1, just because of what he can do this week. Should have a big blow-up game and is coming off a strong performance. Number 2 is Braylon Allen. Love the setup for him, the way that he's been running, and he's an injury away from being an absolute superstar. Number 3 is Bucky Irving. Similar situation, running better. Clearly has an opportunity to be the lead running back for the Bucks. Number 4 is Carson Steele, because he looks like he could be the guy for the Chiefs until Isaiah Pacheco returns. Then I put Akers there just with the 1-week situation. But if you're looking long term, Dowdle would be after Steele. Madison, who could be taking over the Raiders backfield at some point with the way that he's performed and the way Zamir White is running right now. Tajay Spears, and then Ty Chandler.
Yeah, I mean, it's also kind of bonkers that like Tajay Spears is 69% rostered, and the upside he has if there's an injury, but also he catches a lot of passes. I mean, he's got
2 games with 4 receptions so far.
Yeah, all 4 of his catches were on first down in week 3. But obviously, he's been a huge bust. I can't sit here and be like, you have to roster Tajay Spears. But there are a lot of talented backup running backs on waivers. Which one's the right one to get? It depends on who's going to get hurt first, which obviously we can't speculate. But if I saw Braylon Allen, my eyes would pop out of my skull. I would be picking him up instantly. And then there's Roschon Johnson. I don't know that if we mentioned him, but with Swift being so bad, Roschon Johnson playing on the first drive, 8 carries for 30 yards, 4 catches for 32 yards. There are some options there. I don't know if
they have to make a change. I mean, DeAndre Swift has been so bad, and you see Johnson come in. He was an active, healthy scratch in week 1, didn't play in week 2, and then he gets this opportunity in week 3, and he gives them some life, just based on what they've been looking at right now, because DeAndre Swift is averaging under 3 yards per carry, not doing much in the passing game, hasn't scored a touchdown yet. Zamir White's a very similar situation. Alexander Madison's looked more explosive. So for those 2 backfields, I think it's time to make a change. And especially like in the case of, a team like Chicago, where, offensively they're still a mess, and so getting more production from their ground game. Not that it's all on Swift. The offensive line's been bad, but I think just any sort of change will help them at this point.
Let me just add this in for that Bears backfield. Roschon took over the Travis Homer role as the 3rd down guy. He was in on 13 of 21 snaps on 3rd down. Played almost 40% of the snaps in the game. Herbert had 4 of 6 snaps inside the 5 for them, and we've seen him score a short yardage touchdown already. Could that be could we be seeing Swift as the starter, Roschon as the 3rd down / passing downs guy, Herbert is the short yardage guy? What a mess. But at least Roschon's going to get some catches, and he looked good. He ran well. So maybe there is an opportunity for him to take more than just the 3rd down role.
Yeah, like, Dave mentioned, Jaleel McLaughlin. I have no interest in him. I'd much rather pick up Roschon Johnson.
I'll take McLaughlin every time.
Okay. Wide receivers. So we know the top 3 wide receivers. They are Juwan Jennings, and Roma Dunze and Darnell Mooney. So can we get 3 more names?
The receivers, sure.
Yeah,
So once you get past those 3 guys, Wan'Dale Robinson, look, give the guy credit. He's been performing every week so far this season, and Daniel Jones is actually looking competent right now because of Malik Neighbors. So Robinson as the second receiver for the Giants. Jacoby Myers, he's had 2 good games so far this season, or 1.5 good games so far this season. Who knows what happens with a quarterback change there? Tutu Atwell is clearly looking like the best Rams receiver for at least 1 week. So we'll see what happens there. But DeMarcus Robinson struggling. Jordan Whittington not stepping forward. So if you're going to take a chance on somebody, why not take a chance on the guy who was the most productive? Both Jets receivers not named Garrett Wilson are probably going to have opportunities this week, with Wilson getting shut down by Surtain. So look at Alan Lazard, who's got the rapport with him, and Williams, who's hopefully getting healthy. You got Xavier Legette with the Thielen injury and a more competent quarterback. So there's hopefully an opportunity there. And there's other guys who want to keep going, but those would be nice.
Yeah, you know what? There's the Cardinals wide receivers if McBride is out and they're facing Washington, Wilson.
I have Michael Wilson on the list, but George should also benefit.
Yeah. And then I know Jacob liked Tutu Atwell, if you listen to Beyond the Box Score yesterday. So here's a fun stat for Wan'Dale Robinson. It's early season noise, so I don't really know what to make of it. It's matchup dependent, but Wan'Dale Robinson obviously is a slot receiver. His next 2 matchups are against the teams that have given up so far the 2nd and 3rd fewest yards to slot receivers. It doesn't really matter though, because he could catch 6 passes and just get you like a decent PPR floor. But so it's the Cowboys and the Seahawks. They're 2nd and 3rd fewest yards allowed to slot receivers. Number 1, the New York Giants. So at least Wan'Dale doesn't have to face them. Dave, top 3 tight ends this week.
Cole Kmet's going to be first. He's available in about half of CBS Sports leagues. I would say Conklin is 2nd, and Taysom Hill is 3rd if we're stashing. Kmet 48% available. Conklin 77% available. If we're going to start looking at other targets in New York, if Garrett Wilson's going to get shut down, then Conklin's going to be one who's going to get some targets from Aaron Rodgers, and then Hill's after that.
Yeah, and Kmet, I think the Keenan Allen status will be big, but he's facing the Rams. Their defense is just not very good. Conklin has Denver, and Jamie likes Noah Fant. You said Taysom Hill. Hopefully he can get back soon, and we'll talk more about some tight ends a little bit later. But hopefully you should just make sure you check your waiver wire, check your most rostered list here. Is Dallas Goedert available? Is Jake Ferguson available? If you want 7 fantasy points in PPR, Pat Freiermuth has been like 3 catches for 40 yards basically every week. So tight end, is tight end. What else can you say? DST, Jamie?
DSTs, we have. Sorry, the ones that are available. We have the Vikings taking on the Packers. We have the Titans against the Dolphins, the Rams against the Bears against the Rams, and the Dolphins against the Titans.
Oh, so the Dolphins-Titans game and the Bears-Rams game. Would you start the Vikings DST if Jordan Love plays?
No. Yes. Not to the same extent. Yes. I'm sorry. Not to the same extent.
All right. You trust the Titans against the Dolphins?
No, but I trust any team against whoever's starting at Miami's quarterback.
Right. Well, yeah. And kickers, Jamie?
Kickers would be Cameron Dicker. How do you pronounce the name, Thomas, for the Vikings?
Oh, Will Reichard, I think.
Thomas fell asleep. Blake Groupie, John Bates, and Matt Prater.
Okay. I'm just guessing on Reichard. I have no idea. And then do we have any IDPs? There was an IDP. Yeah. If it looked, any IDPs?
I forgot to look again. Sorry.
There was one that I liked. I'll tell you. How are you guys feeling today? Are you feeling wonderful?
Who's going to replace Aluakon?
Oh yeah, that's definitely check that. No, I don't have anyone. I picked up someone who had a lot of tackles and had a horrible game. So I think I saw Ashawn Robinson for the Panthers at defensive line. It's tough to find defensive linemen that get tackles. Ashawn Robinson could be
well,
one.
Again, just look at whatever site you're playing on because we are very strict. Most sites allow different eligibility.
Yeah. All right, we got a lot more here. Shallow leagues, deep leagues, recapping Monday Night Football, drop-o meter, more waiver wire, and we'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today.
Well, you need your sports news anywhere?
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
And we welcome you back. How was your weekend away, Jamie? What was it like to be traveling on a football weekend?
It was fun. It was, a little bit different viewing experience, watching the Red Zone mostly. And then on JetBlue, watching the Ravens-Cowboys game on one TV. And thankfully, my kids were occupied by their tablets, so I was watching the NFL Network on another TV, so getting some highlights of the other games. But yeah, it was enjoyable to actually watch football like a normal person, as opposed to somebody who's working and having to consume it that way, in an office. But it was fun.
Yeah, you get a tough break for you because you obviously can only watch one of the 4 p.m. games, and there happen to be 5 of them this week. Sometimes you only get like 3. But so it's tough to track when you're traveling. Anyway, shallow league players, we have actually mentioned a lot of these names, so we can keep it short. We've mentioned, Jonathan Brooks, Carson Steele, Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, Bucky Irving, Braylon Allen, Alexander Madison, Tyjae Spears, Ty Chandler's another guy, and then Cam Akers is right on the border. So then at wide receiver, I'll throw it over to you. Dave, you can do the deep league guys. Jamie, you can do the shallow league guys. Other than the running backs, who are the players that might be available in 10-team leagues?
You mentioned Deontay Johnson. I think he would be the prize. Quentin Johnson, who we talked about last week, scored a touchdown again, so that was good. But you got the quarterback issue at play now with the Chargers. Same with Lad McConkey, who's at 78%.
Let me ask you, though, because Johnston and McConkey, they got the Chiefs and then a bye. Should we be adding them or dropping them or holding them?
Clearly, if they're the end of your roster players, you could be dropping them. But at the same time, if Herbert is going to be okay coming off of their bye, why not hold them to see what it looks like?
Okay. All right. Sorry to interrupt you. Go on.
Christian Watson, if he gets Jordan Love back. Cortland Sutton's coming off a good game. Don't love him this week. But moving forward, hopefully will be a big part of what the Broncos are doing, or continue to be a big part of what the Broncos are doing. And then DeAndre Hopkins shows some signs of life, so hopefully he can, look like he's getting healthier. Did not run very fast, but look like he's getting healthier.
Okay. And then we know who the shallow league tight ends are with Ferguson and Goddard. And then the shallow league quarterbacks would be Geno, Rodgers, Caleb. You like them better than Darnold?
Not for this week. And probably not long term.
All right, we'll get into those a little bit later. All right, Dave, let's dig deep. Who are the deep league guys to target?
At quarterback, you can start with Dalton, who's available in 91% of leagues. That makes a lot of sense. And then after that, it's gross. It's Daniel Jones. Aiden O'Connell might be the starter in Las Vegas. Good luck to that. But the fact that he's out there in 98% of leagues means that there will be some super flex in 2 QB leagues that can pick up Aiden O'Connell, assuming he is the starter for the Raiders. At running back, Roshan would be the first name there, 91% available. Emmanuel Wilson, I guess, would be the next guy up. He's 92% available. Dalvin Cook, 92% available, but I'm not sure when Cook's going to play. But listen, Jamie talked about Rico Dowdle. He does look like the best running back in Dallas. But that said, I don't know if Dallas has a really good running back right now. I don't know if Dalvin Cook could be that guy either, but if you're stashing, he's somebody that you could put on your list. Wide receiver, obviously Juwan Jennings, 72% available. He should be out there in a huge amount of leagues. If Jordan Addison is still out, Jalen Naylor's been doing nothing but scoring touchdowns. I don't know why you would want to not consider him. Other wide receivers, DeMario Douglas, that's more for PPR. Jalen Tolbert. Jamie mentioned Tutu Atwell. Really like that call a lot. I think Gibbs said something about Atwell.
Yep.
Picked him up in a couple of my leagues. I'm real happy with that. And then at tight end, Conklin, 77% available. Noah Fant, 93% available. Jonnu Smith, 82% available. I'm going to lose my lunch saying the names Conklin, Fant, and Jonnu Smith. These are guys that we've turned to before, and they've come up small. Hopefully they don't come up small if you use them this week. One other point I'd like to make, Adam. It's week 4. The buys start in week 5.
Mm-hmm.
If you have players on, I think Philly's on bye, Detroit's on bye, Miami's on bye, Tennessee's on bye. If you've got players on those teams and you like starting them, you might need a replacement for them. No, might. You will. So you might want to plan ahead a little bit and get one of these players, especially receiver. Tons of receivers out there that you can go and pick up and just use as a week 5 buy replacement.
I'm just doing some.
Don't forget just some other guys they've missed. Cordero Patterson is 2% rostered, could be the starter for the Steelers, as we mentioned. Jordan Akins coming off at least a game where he had 7 targets for the Browns if David Njoku is out as well. And Brenton Strange scored a touchdown for the Jaguars, also available in a bunch of leagues with Evan Ingram out.
Jamie, your FFT Open team has scored 299 or 300 points.
Coming off a very bad week this week.
Mine has scored 369 points. So, but there's a team in your league that has scored 406 points. Holy moly, that team's really good. Better than your team, your lousy team.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about last night's game. Speaking of lousy teams, the Jaguars were playing last night, and they are 0-3 now, and they were 2 of 13 on third down, which is that's just what they do. They are terrible on third down. So Buffalo 47, Jacksonville 10. Dave, any fantasy takeaways?
Bills good, Jaguars stink. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, I can get behind that. It was nice to see Christian Kirk get back in it. I had a feeling this would be a Kirk game, just the way the Bills play defense. But let's talk about all right, your level of confidence starting Christian Kirk or Brian Thomas going forward, and Travis Etienne for that matter.
I mean, Etienne's still going to be a number 2 running back. It was ugly, but I still think you got to buy into his workload. And look, you walk away with 11 PPR points. I know some of it came in garbage time, but he's still going to be the main guy there. So unless you're just stacked at running back, it's hard to bench him. For Thomas, it's just unfortunate that this was the game where he had the most targets on the season and didn't deliver. But that's just a good matchup. I think he'll continue to get better as they move forward. And it was good to see something from Kirk. First game without Evan Ingram. First game plan without Evan Ingram because he was ruled inactive right before the game last week. So seeing him more involved, I think that's something that should continue. Gabe Davis stinks. So get Christian Kirk on the field more. And I think he'll still be he has a chance to be a number 3 receiver moving forward. So hopefully this is the jumping off point. Remember last year it was week 2. Okay, so this year it's week 3. Still too much upside for him to not be more involved. So it was good to see him take advantage of that.
Okay. And for the Bills, I don't really know, is there much to discuss here with the Bills? I mean, Shakir, big game, Kincaid, 5 targets, but 41 yards and a touchdown. Dave, your thoughts on Shakir, who was 37% started, and Kincaid, who was 75% started?
Shakir's going to end up being a terrific bye-week replacement receiver for those who manage to stay healthy at receiver through the first.
Oh, he's a starter in 3 receiver leagues now.
I think he is. That's where I was going with it, is that you could eventually elevate him to be a starter because of the targets that he gets. And this is what we were expecting with Shakir. This is why he was on our breakout list or sleeper list, whatever that we talked about. He's going to be the guy that Josh Allen leans on the most. It's not Keon Coleman. I know Coleman had the nice touchdown, but it's a slow start for him. And I think Kincaid can come around and start to be more of a factor in this passing game, but Shakir's got it for now. And so you can look at him almost the same way you look at Christian Kirk, maybe even a little bit better than Christian Kirk, as the number 3 type of receiver for your PPR team.
I should just point out the schedule. And what do you think about this for the Bills? Their next 5 games, 4 of them are on the road. I don't know if one of them's overseas, but at Baltimore, at Houston, at the Jets, Tennessee, at Seattle. That's a really tough schedule. Are we selling high or just riding it out?
I mean, who are you selling high on, though? Allen? Because he's the only one really to sell high candidate. Maybe James Cook?
Shakir. I mean, Shakir is...
Yeah, I guess. But who's buying Shakir as a must-start player that you're getting something of significance for?
Do you think you could turn Shakir into Tank Dell? And would you?
I'm not sure if I would.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would either.
All right. So then don't sell high then. Okay, moving on to Washington with a 38-33
Maybe you turn Shakir into Brandon Ayuk? Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
But who's doing that?
Throw in something considerable.
Yeah, it would have to be.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Washington 38, Cincinnati 33. And Jaden Daniels, 32.1 fantasy points. Joe Burrow, 31.4 fantasy points. This was a bonanza. Jamie, major...
Since 1940 that there wasn't a turnover or punt.
I know. That was crazy. That was great. Nice, quick game. Jamie, major takeaways from this one?
I was a little disappointed with Brian Robinson, so now he's got a bigger opportunity moving forward if Eckler's going to miss at least maybe 1 week, if, short week for the Commanders. So does Eckler clear the concussion protocol? He's been so good. So this was just a little bit of a letdown against the Bengals defense that seemed to make more of an effort to stop the run, which I think opened up some things down the field for them. Look, you said it. Daniels, when he's throwing the ball down the field, this is going to open things up for Terry McLaurin. There was a lot made on the broadcast before and after about those two guys. McLaurin, I think they said the word patient a billion times. He's being patient. He's looking for his opportunities. He has the 2 big long plays and, delivers one of the, best touchdown catches I think we'll see all season. So that was fun to see him break out. He might be a sell high candidate if you're looking at it from that perspective, because his name still carries some weight. So if you want to try and trade him now, I wouldn't fault you, but hopefully it's a sign of things to come. But Jane Daniels is going to be a star. And then you want the Bengals too, or just the Commanders?
Yeah, you can go to the Bengals.
Oh, I mean, the only disappointment was T. Higgins, but, had end zone opportunities that he just didn't cash in on. And I think it was just great to get him back on the field. But this is why we drafted Jamar Chase as a top-tier wide receiver. He's capable of these type of games. And Zach Moss really stepping forward. I thought Chase Brown, you see the numbers here. He ran well, but Moss was fantastic. Got the late touchdown, but did a great job in the passing game. And as long as he's healthy, will still be the best, Bengals running back. I would continue to stash Chase Brown just to see what develops here in case Moss does miss any time. But it was the Zach Moss show, and as it probably should be for the next couple weeks.
I got to sell high and a buy low on the Bengals, but I think the buy low is kind of obvious. It's T. Higgins, just because missed the first 2 weeks. Now he's back, didn't have a big game. Could an impatient fantasy manager be willing to let go of Higgins? Could you turn Shakir probably and something to get Higgins? That you might be able to do, and I think Higgins is obviously going to do well. Listen, Cincinnati's defense is terrible, and their offense is great. So I think that there's definitely numbers ahead for T. Higgins that you can feel good about. And then the sell high is Zach Moss, late touchdown, and huge game for him. But we've talked about Chase Brown eventually taking the lead role away or taking work away from Moss. It's not going to happen in the next week or two, but it could happen down the line. And you know how injury prone he is. A team that's desperate for a running back might pay up a little bit for Zach Moss.
All right. And let's go to the drop-o-meter. 0 to 10. Mark Andrews.
2.
Jamie? Oh, still muted. Oh, okay. Jamie's still got
he's on the dog-o-meter.
some dog problems. Isaiah Likely.
9.
DeAndre Swift.
It's 5. He's going to end up being an anchor on your bench where you're not going to feel comfortable drop kicking him on the waiver wire, but you're not going to feel good starting him either.
Ezekiel Elliott.
6, 7.
DeMarcus Robinson.
5. You could.
Hold on, Dave. Wait, 5 on who?
DeMarcus Robinson. Keep up here, Adam. You're telling me the name.
No, I just needed to get this queued up. Drop-o-meter for Pittman.
You're not dropping Pittman, but he could end up being a weight on your bench too, man. Like if he's not getting good targets from Anthony Richardson and the target volume, it went down just as I suggested it would. It could be a tough year for him.
Javonte Williams.
I'd probably put him at 5. I think that the Broncos are going to get a little. I think they've had enough of him. He's not. They gave him a lot of work last week, and he didn't do a lot with it. He fumbled. I already talked about the short yardage rule and how he had to split that. That was new.
Oh man, I'm struggling over here. By the way, I think it's a fun game. Is that Jamie's dog or is that the Adams little mixer dog? So Derek Carr, 0 to 10.
Derek Carr is going to get dropped in a bunch of leagues. I'll put him at a 7 on the dropometer.
I'm at like a 2. I want to wait it out. I want to see if this offensive breakout's legit. I don't want to just give up after one game. It was the best story in fantasy, just the Saints overall.
Yeah, I get that, but I think that if the offensive line isn't good, he's going to struggle. And they kind of hid Carr against Philadelphia. Look at all the carries that Kamara had in that game.
Yeah, no, he hasn't been throwing the ball much at all. He's got 25, 23, and 16 pass attempts in 3 games. But I don't know. I just kind of want to see where it goes. All right, to the waiver wire. So this is the check to see if available in shallow leagues portion. So it's Caleb Williams, Geno Smith, and Aaron Rodgers. Not necessarily in that order, but Caleb does get the Rams, who are 31st against quarterbacks.
And
Geno,
a great schedule after that.
Yeah, Geno gets the Lions, and Aaron Rodgers gets Denver. And Aaron Rodgers actually has a pretty terrible schedule. But it's hard to know. But none of his next 4 opponents rank lower than 11th against quarterbacks.
I don't think the schedule gets really easier until like a month from now. And then at the end of the year, it gets pretty good. But for now, it's tough.
So if you saw Caleb Williams, Geno Smith, or Aaron Rodgers on your waiver wire, would you
Geno.
over Dalton and Darnold and all them?
If I need a starter for this week, it's Geno.
Okay.
Geno is going to get the Lions, who have a struggling secondary and lost 2 of their defensive linemen to injuries last week. This is one where you just don't overthink it. Geno's been playing great. Should be a high scoring game.
Monday night at Detroit. We have 2 Monday night games again: Tennessee, Miami, and Seattle at Detroit. All right. So then we've talked about Darnold, Dalton, Fields. You got Deshaun Watson at Las Vegas. You got Daniel Jones against the Cowboys. He has never scored, I think, more than 18.5 fantasy points against the Cowboys.
Yeah, terrible track record.
Bo Nix still has not thrown a touchdown. He's got the Jets. This is deeper leagues. Malik Willis, if he gets another start. Taylor Heineke could be starting this week. I don't know who's going to start for the Dolphins. Tim Boyle.
Could be Snoop Huntley.
And then you got Aiden O'Connell, who they thought about making a change, but they're not going to yet. But you could stash Aiden O'Connell. Because
they say they're not making the change?
Yeah, they're sticking with
They're
Minshew.
going to stick with Minshew? All right, I didn't catch that. I'm sorry. I said earlier that they might. They still might down the line.
But he's got Cleveland. Like their next 3 games are Cleveland, at Denver, and Pittsburgh. So it's going to be tough for Minshew to come out of that looking good, I think. But
should we be selling high on Devontae Adams?
I think you missed a chance. I mean, you said that last week.
You missed a chance to sell high on Devontae. We talked about it.
Yeah, no, it's
you can still get something moderately good for him.
I might just keep it instead of moderately good because he got 9 targets. I might just stick with it, but I'm not expecting a good month for Devontae. All right, I don't know if there's anything you want to like. I don't think people are really dipping into the Deshaun Watson, Daniel Jones pool this week.
Not unless they're desperate.
So
and you don't have to be with guys like Dalton out there.
Yeah, and in super flex leagues, you do want to be stashing O'Connell. You want to be stashing. I think Drake May. I don't know if he's going to be any good,
that's a good call,
but could get the job. All right, running backs. So a lot of guys in shallow leagues to look at. Jonathan Brooks. If just hypothetically, Jonathan Brooks and Carson Steele are sitting on the waiver wire in a tree, who are you picking? Who are you picking up?
Brooks.
Brooks for Jamie, Steele for Dave?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, this Panthers offense finally looks good.
I'll take the player who can help me win now.
Okay. And then, the waiver wire guys. So I'm going to just throw Akers on there since he's right at the threshold, 65%. Akers would be one in that scenario over like Roschon Johnson.
Yes, and I put Patterson too because remember I told you Najee's injury wasn't on our injury report. Well, he's on our injury report now.
Okay. So Cordarrelle Patterson is an option, but you'd start Akers over Patterson if
I would start Akers over Patterson, but obviously if both Najee and Jalen Warren are out, then Patterson, I would start him over Akers.
Yes.
Yeah, so really like everyone in this running back list other than Akers and Patterson, I don't know that you're going to confidently put them in a lineup. Roschon Johnson, Emmanuel Wilson.
No, there's nobody this week, and for, you were asking some of the drop stuff, like the Broncos situation, like did they find another guy that they're going to use, in terms of Beatty, who was great for them in the fourth quarter and may have had their best performance so far this season? Are we looking at another guy that Sean Payton is just, falling in love with? Who else did you discuss? I mean, Madison may be available in a lot of leagues. Like that's somebody that I would be starting over Zamir White at this point. I'm starting Roschon Johnson over DeAndre Swift this week. If I have to pick up Johnson, I would drop Swift in a 10-team league for sure, and probably some 12-team leagues. There are a lot of different numbers I would have given on the drop list. I'm sorry I wasn't there for that. A lot of 10.
Give your numbers. Can we do the drop list so he can give them?
Who would you have? Do you remember?
Oh, Pittman is droppable in a 10-team league for sure. in some 12-team leagues. Swift is droppable in almost all formats. Zeke is droppable in almost all formats. Javonte, I would hold for now because, again, I don't know how much of that was just the Broncos not using him in the fourth quarter. So he would barely be a hold, but probably at a 5. I don't remember all the names you gave.
Yeah, I mean, DeAndre Swift signed a pretty big contract.
So did Miles Sanders.
Matter at this point.
I know. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter. It might matter at this point. It's only 3 weeks. I mean, like, obviously I'm disgusted by it. I'm not quite sure I'm ready to say he's droppable in all formats.
He's droppable, but I wouldn't drop. It's not a spike drop. It's okay. I need a roster spot. I'm never starting this guy. Bon voyage.
Yeah. Okay. The question is, if someone dropped DeAndre Swift, would you go pick him up off waivers? And
I mean, for me, if I'm staring at Roschon Johnson and DeAndre Swift, I'm picking up Johnson.
I can't say the same.
All righty. Okay, so that's running back. Emmanuel Wilson, really, like, we should he's kind of like I don't know. I mean, he's the last guy standing behind Josh Jacobs, who
So he's a lottery ticket. I mean, he's an absolute league winner if Jacobs misses any time. They're running the ball so well.
All right, wide receivers. So you got a lot of see if they're availables. The Quentin Johnson, Lab McConkey, that we already talked. There's a scenario where they're droppable. Jerry Jeudy's had 6 to 8 targets in all 3 games. He gets the Raiders and the Commanders and the Eagles. The schedule for the Browns is pretty good. The quarterback is bad and the offensive line is bad, but the schedule is good. Deontay's the prize. Christian Watson, Cortland Sutton, DeAndre Hopkins. So if you can't get them, we love Juwan Jennings, Darnell Mooney, and Roma Dunze. And then the other guys, Jamie mentioned Wan'Dale Robinson, Jacoby Myers. I think Tutu Atwell's got some appeal, but they're at Chicago. That's a tough matchup. Alan Lazard, because we expect Garrett Wilson to struggle this week. If you have Garrett Wilson and Mike Evans in your lineup, you're going to lose this week. Just letting you know. Garrett Wilson's got Surtain, and I just can't think of a single player who has worse history against the team this extensive than Mike Evans versus New Orleans. It's crazy.
He's not playing New Orleans, but good try.
Playing Philadelphia.
Why did I think they were playing New Orleans?
Because you're so clever.
New Orleans.
When is Tampa Bay playing New Orleans? Is that next?
Tampa Bay plays New Orleans in week 6.
Oh, man.
You got Danitis, buddy. You got Danitis. You don't know the matchups.
That sucks.
Week 6 and then again in week 18. So you only have to worry about Mike Evans once.
That's good. That's good. That is week 18. All right. Alan Lazard, Xavier Legette, Jalen Naylor. The appeal's going to come off with Jordan Addison comes back. But Addison, what's Addison's roster percentage? Should we be adding Jordan Addison?
I think he would be in the guys to pick. I'll put him in that list.
75%.
Yep, that's a good call.
Oh, I made up for the Mike Evans thing.
Yeah, I mean the Vikings are playing the Bears this week. It's good.
Demario Douglas. I haven't done my week 4 research yet. So Demario Douglas and Josh Downs. Josh Downs, we got all this talk about in training camp. He was getting like as many targets as Pittman. What happened in his first game back? He got as many targets as Pittman. So Josh Downs is 21% rostered.
Right. It's just that passing offense is messy. I think I can name at least like 8 other receivers I'd rather have than Downs right now.
I've got a few more names for you. Ready? Romeo Dobbs. In week 1, he had 7 targets. He's kind of Jordan Love's guy. He's 53% rostered.
Not bad.
Jalen Tolbert, 6% rostered for the Cowboys.
That's one of the guys I would take ahead of Downs for sure. 2 straight weeks of pretty good production. He moves well. Could end up being the number 2 receiver for Dallas.
Tyler Lockett. Not this week, but next week, because this week obviously is going to be horrible when people trust him. But after he's horrible this week, then you go back to Lockett. But he's got the Lions this week, so
he's got the Giants after that.
Yeah,
there's a 2-week window of Lockett being a decent number 3 receiver.
Calvin Austin. Any interest?
Can we buy in after 1 game?
1 catch.
1 catch, even better. So no.
All right, tight ends. Let's hope you can get Ferguson or Goddard. Gesicki even, Gesicki had 4 for 47 on 5 targets. Carolina is their matchup this week. Pat Freiermuth, I mentioned, gets about 7 fantasy points every week. Zach Ertz can maybe get in that range. He had 5 for 38 against Cincinnati. He had 4 for 62 the week before. And you could stash Hawkinson. So Cole Kmet, it's tough to know what to make of the Bears. So much of their production. I think Kmet had like 50 yards and a touchdown in the fourth quarter. And he had 10 for 97 and a touchdown on the game. So he had a big game regardless of fourth quarter production. Rams are 28th against tight end. So Cole Kmet.
Also the first easy matchup that they had. I mean, think about the first 2 games. Tennessee's going to be a good defense when they're healthy against the pass. And then the Texans. And Shane Waldron, who needs to go, needs to also take Gerald Everett with him and let Cole Kmet play.
And that's what happened in week 3. And the results were good.
So would you start Kmet over Andrews or Kelsey?
Yes. Not Kelsey. Andrews,
Not
yes.
Kelsey, but Andrews, yes.
Andrews is probably getting a squeaky wheel game, though, so just be careful after what he was asked about yesterday.
What was he asked about?
Harbaugh was asked about what's going on with Andrews, and he talked about how basically their offensive line sucks and that they need all their tight ends to be involved in blocking.
I believe Andrews ran 6 routes in week number 3. 2 of them, he was a blocker. So technically, if you want to get into the details, 4 routes on how many dropbacks did Lamar have? I know he only attempted 15 passes.
I don't remember what Jacob said, but the amount of air yards that he threw for yesterday was unbelievable. Very, very low. So Kmet,
So unbelievable, you don't remember.
I can't remember if it was like in the 40s or in the 80s, but it was something nuts. Tyler Conklin would be second. Like, do you trust anyone else? Okay, so if you would pick up Kmet, and don't drop Mark Andrews, by the way, but if you would pick up Kmet and start him over Andrews, would you start Conklin or Fant or Brenton Strange or Jordan Akins over Andrews?
No, I probably would still start Andrews over Conklin as well.
Do you like Cade Otton against the Saints this week?
No.
That's a callback to the Mike Evans thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. See? Okay. It was such a clever joke that you guys didn't even get it.
When you said Cotton, I stopped.
God. And then, so you got, like, there are other guys, Njoku and Ingram, who are 80% rostered. Are they ads or drops?
So I put them in the drop list just because if they're not playing, like how long are you carrying? How are you able? If you're able to carry 2 tight ends, you do it. But if a lot of people aren't in that category, so that's why I explained in the story that, if you need to drop these guys at this point, drop them.
Okay, you can drop Dalton Schultz and Taysom Hill is, he's on the drop list because he may not play, but Dave said he's a good guy to stash. What about Hunter Henry, who is one of the most added players last week?
You'll see him as one of the most drop players this week. If there's something positive, it's that the Niners should build a lead and maybe there'll be some check down throws for Hunter Henry. But look at what happened last week against the Jets. Henry did not get a lot of targets, did not have a good game. So risky low-end streamer.
Well, if I were going to put him on the list with Kmet and Conklin, where would Henry be?
Behind them.
Okay.
Behind.
DSTs, the Vikings at Green Bay, but lower them if Jordan Love plays. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Titans at Miami, Rams at the Bears against the Rams, and Dolphins against Tennessee. And kickers, Cameron Dicker, Will Reichard, maybe that's his name, Blake Grupe, John Bates, and Matt Prater. Oh, man, what was I thinking with the Evans thing? That is going to bug me all week. Thanks for...
All right, Dan, you're good.
Oh, don't call me that. That's slob. We gotta go. And we'll talk to you at the CBS Sports Network. Woohoo! 1:00 Eastern. See you there. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one.